What the hell?
No, really. What the hell? The problem of hell is an ethical problem for religions where they believe that there's an all powerful, all good, all knowing God, but yet some people suffer from eternal damnation. These two seem to be logically incompatible, but before we get into all that, let's try to define what hell even is. According to Andrei Bukharev, there are at least 5 elements that remain rather consistent in many traditional doctrines. There are some people that are going to be confined to hell for an infinite period of time.
Hell is a place for people who fail to satisfy the requirements set by God in order to avoid hell and enjoy heaven.
The overall experience while in hell is going to be a negative one. Lots of suffering. It's going to be a pretty tough time. And lastly, hell is a place that is going to be an eternal punishment for those who failed to satisfy those conditions set by God. Those 5 defining points of hell actually coincide with the traditionalist view of hell, which brings about one of the most basic problems. The structure of this problem is very similar to the logical problem of evil. And it goes, if God exists and is essentially good, all-knowing, and all-powerful, then why are some people created to be consigned to hell forever? Marilyn McCord Adams actually argues that these are logically incompatible. She states, if God exists and were omnipotent, God would be able to avoid eternal damnation. If God exists and were omniscient, he would know how to avoid eternal damnation. And if God exists and he's perfectly good, he would want to avoid eternal damnation. Therefore, if God satisfies all 3 of these requirements, eternal damnation, or hell, shouldn't exist according to Adams. With this argument, theologians either have to give up the doctrine of hell or the traditional view of God and his omniperfection. Now that you have a basic understanding of the background of the problem of hell, we'll move forward into the free will view. Arguments for the free will view are all according to this idea that God's purpose for hell and creation was to create love-based relationships between God and humans in the human community. People who are genuinely free have the choice to reciprocate God's love or not. C.S. Lewis is one of the proponents to this free will theodicy. He once put it, in creating beings with free will, omnipotence from the outset submits to the possibility of defeat. I willingly believe that the damned are, in one sense, successful rebels to the end, and that the doors of hell are locked on the inside. In layman's terms, C.S. Lewis is basically creating this vibe of people choose hell over God's eternal embrace, and the choices that people make, especially the bad ones, God has to kind of work around because genuinely free beings cannot be controlled by determinism. Some may ask, well, why doesn't God just create people who love God? Well, if we're free-willed beings and we make all these choices along the way, and in the end God just basically switches a part of you that creates, makes you love him, then that's going to diminish a big part of your character, and thus diminishing your personal identity. An objection to this free will view is held by Thomas Talbot, and he argues that, okay, if people are supposed to choose their, eternal afterlife situation, it'd be ignorant to not choose God. Why would somebody willfully choose, a lake of fire, in a sense, versus eternal bliss? Therefore, if people are, choosing hell, it's probably because they're ignorant to the fact that these choices are, ultimately going to predestine where you're going to go in the end. And so he believes if you are ignorant or stupid or like something's wrong with you to, make the choice of hell, then that isn't necessarily free will. You don't have the freedom to choose based on knowledge of all the options. And so it's not going to be a sound argument to be of free will. Thomas Talbot argues that free will is more than just suggesting that, we require more than predestination. He claims that decisions made on its insufficient evidence are never truly free because it doesn't represent what a person would choose if they were fully informed. And denying God can serve no rational purpose, and there's nothing good outside of God from the traditional claims of who God is and what heaven is versus hell. And so, therefore, the rejection of God must be rooted in ignorance or deception, and thus it is not represented by a truly free, fully informed decision. I think Talbot's claims properly negates the free will view, because if you consider that a temporal being understands the concepts and the weight of a eternal decision, I believe that is a not a sound basis. To have free will and to fully understand the concepts of, the version of hell that is a burning like a fire and eternal bliss, where it's like there are no more tears and, no more sadness. There aren't rational reasons to decide, hell over heaven. In conclusion, there's many problems to hell, such as the very basis of how can hell exist if God is all-loving, all-knowing, and all-powerful, to the point that people enter into hell out of their own free choice because God wants a loving relationship with them, and it requires freedom to create that sort of relationship. And also the view that why would people choose hell if they're fully aware of the knowledge and bliss that comes with choosing God in heaven and the suffering that comes with choosing hell? Thank you for watching.